a review of project 2. So for the next project in this class, you're going to be creating a scrapbook. And I have an example here of a prior student's work. And the scrapbook will consist of about 10 pages. I just click through these here. You can kind of see here as I click through these 10 pages here. Okay. And based on the part 1 and part 2 of this assignment, you're going to kind of have to go on what I call it like an image hunt, where you're going to have to hunt down certain images that possess these particular characteristics that are listed here. Like from 1 through 6, you need to find over or underexposed images, images with contrast or too much, with no contrast or too much contrast, images with dark shadows, images with bright highlights, images where you want to change the color of something in the photo, and then an image that has some sort of color cast in it. And I am sure if you look back at all the photos you've taken, or photos taken of you, or photos taken by others, you will be able to find at least one or more of one of these 6 types of images. Now make sure, if you're going through a collection of actual print images, not digital images, that the image itself is at least 5 by 7, because you don't want it to be any smaller, because you want your final scrapbook to have a consistent look, and all the final, as you can kind of see, all the final images in her final scrapbook are all 5 by 7. Okay. If they're digital images, I talk about that in some later lectures. Well, I will be talking about that in some later lectures. It's okay if they're not 5 by 7 in digital format. Most of the time, they're a lot bigger than 5 by 7. If they're a lot bigger, you're actually covered. You're fine. Okay? And then on the second part here, you have to find 4 images of one image. You need to locate a portrait of somebody in a magazine and scan it in. The second one is to actually shoot a photo of your face with a digital camera or a print camera and develop it. Locate an antique photo that has been damaged, or you can create a damaged photo of some kind. And locate a photo that you'd like to actually add some custom filter or a paint effect to. So you're going to need to do some research to find these images. And I'm sure everybody has a plethora of choices in terms of images to choose from for this. So everybody looks for these images, and then what we're going to do is we're going to progress through a series of, in the first part, a series of photo color corrections to correct images with these problems. And we're going to learn about tools in Photoshop and methods that are very useful for making photography that maybe by chance just happened to be shot in bad lighting, or maybe perhaps there was some focus issues, or bright sun, or what have you. You can still correct those images and make them beautiful and still usable. So we're going to learn all about how to do that. In the second part, we're going to learn how to actually retouch, which is to remove or add technique. In this case, a filter. We may use retouching tools to remove somebody's a button on some clothing, or a rip in the photo, or dust and hair on the photo. You're going to learn how to color correct those things. This project actually turns out to be very useful, because most of the time when you shoot photos with a handheld camera, you end up having at least half your roll possessing one of these issues, and you need to actually go in and correct it. And so this project should be pretty useful for you in the future if you are into shooting photos, doing scrapbooking, or just, you know, making a collection of photos of your family or what have you. This should be a very useful project for that. Now the other thing is at the bottom here, I've given you a definition of what some of these terms mean that are listed above, like what is underexposed, what is overexposed, what does no contrast mean, and such. What are shadows, what are highlights, what's a color cast. So hopefully these will be helpful in giving you pointers to locate these images. Okay, now the other thing I'd like to talk about real quick here, and this is going to be a quick lecture because I really just only wanted to review this with you, is you will be using Bridge to actually create this final scrapbook. So it's important that if you purchase Photoshop that you make sure that you have Bridge loaded, or you'll need to make sure that you have access to Bridge, because you'll need Bridge to create your final scrapbook PDF, which is basically what this is here. Okay. You'll also, in addition to creating the interior pages of your scrapbook, let's go back here, you will be designing a cover for your scrapbook and a table of contents for your scrapbook. So you'll be doing both of those pages in Photoshop. So you'll get a little experience with laying out a page for a cover, and you'll get a little bit of experience setting some text for your table of contents. So overall, this is kind of a fun project. I mean, this is a project that I love doing face-to-face, because what I have the students do in a face-to-face scenario is they actually have to go get this printed, and they make a book, a spiral-bound book, and they have it as a keepsake. It usually turns out to be a really nice family memento of photos of the family or what have you, or photos of a vacation. And if you choose to want to take this project further beyond what's required in the class and actually, you know, make a printed book, you can certainly go ahead. I can give you some information on doing that. But that's not what's required for this class because it's online. I can't require you to physically have to hand me a project. So, but I'm just letting you know, if you wanted to explore that on your own, you certainly could. I can give you information on that. Okay. So the final project itself will be worth 100 points, and just like we did on the first project, you'll go through a series of progress reports, compiling different aspects of the assignment each week. We will have a discussion where we'll post questions, because as you get started with doing color correction, you'll find that sometimes you may not know how to begin or what to do onto an image. So we'll have discussions based on class questions eventually. I believe in week 8 we get to that. So that's basically what I have. So just make sure as a recap that you can locate Bridge and that you have Bridge available. You'll definitely need Photoshop. You must have Photoshop in order to do the project.